C is for Consent by Eleanor Morrison and Faye Orlove for ages 3 to 5. This board book teaches that it is okay for kids to say no to hugs and kisses, and that what happens to their body is up to them. This helps children grow up confident in their bodies, comfortable with expressing physical boundaries, and respectful of the boundaries of others. Let's talk about body boundaries, consent, and respect. Teach children about body ownership, respect, feelings, choices, and recognizing bullying behaviors by Jayneen Sanders and Sarah Jennings for ages 4 to 10. This book explores these concepts with children in a child-friendly and easily understood manner, providing familiar scenarios for children to engage with and discuss. It is important that the reader and the child take the time required to unpack each scenario and explore what they mean both to the character in the book, who may not be respecting somebody's body boundary, and to the character who is being disrespected. It is through these vital discussions that children will learn the meaning of body boundaries, consent, and respect. Consent for Kids: Boundaries, Respect, and Being in Charge of You by Rachel Bryan for ages 6 to 10. Consent is like being ruler of your own country. Population: you. This is a smart, playful guide to consent and bodily autonomy, packed with bright and energetic illustrations. Readers will learn about boundaries and how to set them, ways to respect themselves and others, what to do if someone makes them feel uncomfortable or unsafe, and much more. Along the way, they'll be encouraged to reflect on and improve their own behavior and to practice consent in their daily lives. A Quick and Easy Guide to Consent by Isabella Rotman and Luke Howard for ages 12 and up. How do you tell someone you want to do stuff with them? How do you ask if they want to do stuff with you? How do you know what stuff you want to do with each other? Enter Sergeant Yes Means Yes from the Consent Cavalry, a beacon of clarity in a fuzzy minefield of questions. Sarge drops in on a diverse range of folks, deciding whether to engage in sexual activity in this short and fun comic guide to communicating what you want, don't want, and how you want it. Consent: The New Rules of Sex Education. Every Teen's Guide to Healthy Sexual Relationships by Jennifer Lang, MD, for ages 12 and up. A board-certified OBGYN, Dr. Lang breaks down confusing concepts into factual and clear guidance. She outlines not only what consent looks and sounds like, but the importance of recognizing when a person has the capacity to give consent and when they don't. Written for all teens and inclusive of all sexual identities and orientations, Consent is a reference guide to healthy sexual expression and relationships. The Big Questions Book of Sex and Consent by Donna Freitas for ages 12 and up. What this book is not: the fear-based how-to on sex and consent, oversimplified and focused on technicalities that represents so much of our sexual education today. What this book is: a journey into the big questions that will turn you into a thinking person about sex and consent, with the ability to wrestle towards the answers that work for you and continue to wrestle towards them for the rest of your life. What is the meaning and purpose of sex? How does it intersect with who I am? Why are people so afraid of it? What does a healthy and joyful approach to sex look like for me? Why is consent so much more than a yes or no question? Who this book is for? Everybody, no matter your sexuality, gender, religion, or race. What could be more essential? It doesn't have to be awkward. dealing with relationships, consent, and other hard-to-talk-about stuff by Dr. Drew and Paulina Pinsky for ages 12 and up. When it comes to sex, relationships, and consent, establishing boundaries and figuring out who you are and what you want is never simple, especially as a teenager. What's the line between a friendship and a romantic partner? How can you learn to trust your body's signals? And what if you're not quite sure what your sexuality is? Filled with tangible and accessible resources, and featuring humorous and raw personal anecdotes, this guide for teens, parents, and educators goes beyond the talk and dives into honest and meaningful conversations about sex, relationships, and consent. What does consent really mean? By Pete Wallace, Talia Wallace, and Joseph Wilkins for ages 13 and up. Consent is not the absence of no, it is an enthusiastic yes. While seemingly straightforward, Tia and Bryony hadn't considered the subject too seriously until it comes up in conversation with their friends and they realize just how important it is. Following the sexual assault of a classmate, a group of teenage girls find themselves discussing the term consent, what it actually means for them in their current relationships, and how they act and make decisions with peer influence. Joined by their male friends who offer another perspective, this rich graphic novel uncovers the need for more informed conversations with young people around consent and healthy relationships. Accompanying the graphics are sexual health resources for students and teachers. Real talk about sex and consent, what every teen needs to know, by Cheryl M. Bradshaw, for ages 13 and up. Let's get real, sex is complicated. Like, really complicated. And as a teen, you need trusted resources to help you navigate sexual issues without shame, guilt, or judgment. But if you're like many teens, you may not have someone in your life that you can talk to openly about complicated sexual situations and what consent really means. And this information is crucial for your health, safety, and happiness. Can we talk about consent? A book about freedom, choices, and agreement by Justin Hancock and Fuchsia McCary for ages 14 and up. What exactly is consent? Why does it matter? How can you respect other people's boundaries and have them respect yours? This book breaks down the basics of how to give and get consent in every aspect of life. It's a powerful word, but not everyone understands exactly what it means. This stylish guide explains clearly why consent matters for all of us. With honest explanations by experienced sex and relationships educator Justin Hancock, you'll learn how consent is a vital part of how we connect with ourselves and our self-esteem, the people close to us, and the wider world.